Okay, Datacloud 2025 seems to have been a great success. I think you had record attendance, and maybe just to start with, if you can give us, I don't know, a flavor of the event and why you think it is that so many people, came along to find out about, I guess, is it sort of data centers and digital infrastructure? So yeah, just give us the high level view of it.
The high level view. So yeah, we had about 4,500 attendees, which is kind of more than 1,000 more than we had last year, which is amazing. Um, and I suppose it kind of reflects the inflection point that the industry's at. There's a huge amount of tailwinds behind us, demand, investment, opportunity, AI, all of that good stuff. But there are some fairly major headwinds and questions that need answering. And we've worked very hard to kind of create this kind of global convening touch point that brings together the senior leaders kind of across the world who are really grappling with some of these kind of thorny issues. I mean, how to manage growth in an efficient, sustainable, manageable way. And I think where Cannes last week or the week before was amazing was actually the growth explosion was one thing, but we never wanted to be the biggest. We don't want to be the biggest. We want to be the most influential. So that growth wasn't just growth for growth's sake, if that makes sense. 65% of our attendees are director level, and the way that actually breaks down into, we had about 1,100 kind of C-level representatives on site. So that's kind of about a quarter of our attendees. So that kind of gives you a bit of a flavor of actually, I suppose, the importance of some of the conversations that are taking place. Um, so yeah, hopefully that kind of gives a bit of a nutshell view
Yeah.
of kind of the event.
No, that's great. And in terms of the topics covered, I guess front and center, everyone's talking about AI. So I think that was on the agenda. Things like investment, energy, ESG, the talent, skill shortage, etc. I mean, I don't know. Clearly, there's a lot happened, so it's very unfair of me maybe to ask you to tell me everything that happened in 2 days in like 2 minutes. But maybe just give some flavor of the conversation or anything that highlights that you struck you in terms of trends or thoughts or what you came across, if you like.
What what I think is amazing is because the event isn't an exhibition, right? I mean, we have a large exhibition, but the exhibition is very much where people are showcasing, I suppose, new innovations or things that are really going to impact the industry. But the conference sessions and the learning and the thought leadership is kind of the real bastion of the event. I mean, we have, from a speaker perspective, 50% of them are CEOs, 25% are women. We're very proud of that. Um, and it means that we can kind of, I suppose, bypass some of the marketing bump, as it were, that you might technically sometimes hear on stage and really deep dive into some of the actual issues. And if you look at the kind of the pace of development, I mean, this time last year we were talking about, chat GPT maybe and kind of the impact that that was having from a demand growth perspective. This year, the knowledge and the learning around training versus inference and who's going to play in which space and where that's going to go from an AI perspective has kind of kicked on another 12 months. And I mean, it's changing so much because, if you look at AI, that it comes down to the design, the site selection, all of these pieces, like the industry is being radically transformed. Um, so I suppose from an AI perspective, it's really, it's here, but how do we manage that? How do we build, especially when demand is fluctuating and you have some geopolitical challenges, but also opportunities around kind of sovereign AI, but then equally, I suppose the elephant in the room is power, right? And how do we power all of those good things? Um, we're quite lucky because a few years ago we launched the Digital Infra Leader Summits, and that's kind of where we bring together 40 kind of real CEOs across the region. We do it at 5 of our different events. And that kind of enables us to maybe kind of spot some of the challenges that are coming down the line. Um, so that's why we launched in March the Energy and ESG event in Brussels, which is the first one to bring together kind of the policymakers, the grid operators and utilities, as well as data center operators. So being able to flow that through then to Congress was really important for us and, enable kind of first time sponsors like GE Vernova, for example, to kind of showcase what they're doing on the SMR space and what role they might play in the digital infra world moving forwards is important. On the talent piece, that was a major theme for the event. So something that, again, a program we've been running for a while is called Talent and Tech. We have an advisory board. It's kind of a give back program that we run that enables and sponsors those who are in kind of their final years of university or college or in their first couple of years within the industry to come and be mentored, have kind of intimate touch points and exposure to some real leaders, so the likes of Susanna Cass or Petter Tomaras or Joe Carver, all these types of people who can really give some insight into what a career in data center or digital infra might look like. Um, and then being able to do things like you can probably see behind me, I've got a data center print. We hosted a really cool artist on site called Michael Gerardo. He's doing coloring in books for data centers in a pop art style. And that's super cool because we need kids to, understand what we do. And so it's kind of really trying to tackle the talent problem from, the across the stack. Um, and plenty of other conversations. So edge, right? What does that mean? What is edge? Where is that going? How do you build it? In a really interesting debate on how you define an edge data center in terms of, megawattage, etc. Because I don't think anybody really knows. There's still lots of conversations to figure out. And it's kind of nice to be able to provide that platform where we can do that. And then on the financing and investment side, I mean, you saw the last week was the first ABS deal in Europe from Vantage. That's a major trend and challenge, well, not challenge, but, as we swing from private equity to private credit, what does that mean for the industry? And, there's all of these different kind of ands that a CEO managing a data center company maybe wouldn't have had to have thought about kind of 10, 15 years ago, but the world is getting so much more complex that, we need to try and make sure that we're providing all of those different strands that help you set a strategy effectively.
And I think as well, you sort of reported, or maybe I've read it somewhere, but the data centers are becoming or is being seen as the catalyzing innovation globally. So do you think the industry sort of, if you like, realizes how important it is, and if, what's going on in terms of how data centers are, if you like, driving the agenda when it comes to innovation in I guess, whether it's upstream or downstream of what it is they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think, if you think around, I mean, even just a silly thing, right? I mean, 5 years ago, who would have thought the word data center would have come out of any world leader's mouths? And, in January, we had Trump, Macron, and Starmer kind of all citing data centers and their critical support for data centers in order to, create that kind of economic, technological edge that every country and nation is trying to fight for right now. Um, and then I suppose if you take a step back from that and if you boil down digital infrastructure into kind of the three buckets, right? Compute, store, connect, all of those things actually happen within a data center. And you can't really divorce, the data center from the global network. And yeah, so I mean, in terms of catalyzing innovation, it's more that they are such an important part of the puzzle that you can't run anything. You can't run the internet without a data center somewhere, right?
And speakers, I mean, you've already, I think, given us some flavour, but maybe just tell us, how many speakers you had to give us some idea of the size of it. And I'm presuming it was a fairly international speaker panel as well as, I think you already said, you had a good representation from females, where I think we know the challenge there for the industry to become, get equality and DEI, etc. So yeah, just flavour as to quantity and quality and nationality, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have about 170 speakers kind of across the 2 days and in various different touch points. So we'll do kind of slightly more intimate Chatham House rules type touch points. So this year, for example, we ran Datacloud Invest, which was, really for the investors around the table to understand what the trends were from a financing perspective when it comes to data centers. And that, that's held under Chatham House rules, but that's an important sharing point for them, right, as they're kind of learning about the industry too. Then you have kind of the big opening keynotes where, this year we had Google, Microsoft, CoreWeave kind of on the keynote, which is really exciting. But it kind of breaks down in terms of internationality. I mean, I think every continent in the world is represented. We have 65 countries kind of across, on site. It's a really global event. I mean, it's probably slightly more skewed on the European side, but we do talk about global issues because, you know, the world, you can't cut off a single part of the internet and expect it fully to work, right? So that's very important to us. Um, and, you know, moving forwards, we know the demand for the content and the conversations is really important, you know, especially when the industry is changing this quickly. And we really pride ourselves on the quality of the research that goes into our agendas. And the team and, you know, the lady who runs it, Paige, I mean, huge shout out to her. She did such a good job with the agenda and the content and the speaker management this year because we want to make sure that I suppose, we're the best. And she's done a really good job at kind of re-establishing that for us in the content. You know, it's telling when an agenda's filled by, you know, February effectively and the events in June.
And I think there was also an awards evening as well. So I'm not expecting you to tell me all the winners and all the awards, but again, just give us a flavour of why that's important to you and yeah, how it was appreciated as well, I guess.
Yeah, so the awards are a really important part of Data Cloud. I mean, it's part of giving back as well as kind of celebrating the luminaries in the industry. We're really lucky. We've got an amazing judging panel. Um, and you know, they volunteer their time to go through each of the criteria. And it is a total surprise. I mean, I didn't find out. I was handing out the trophies. I didn't find out who won until I saw the name on the trophy kind of thing. It's a real church and state policy that we run. I think the only exceptions to that were this year, because it was our 20th anniversary, we introduced kind of three new special categories. So we had Best in Show, which sounds a bit crufts, but effectively, you know, it's not your standard exhibition that you would expect from a data center show. And a lot of the teams put so much effort into creating amazing things on their stands. So we ran kind of a live poll across all of the attendees so they could vote for their best stand. And the Cyrus One team won that, which is amazing. Kind of, you know, they put so much work into the event. And then we had two kind of special contribution to the industry awards. So one was for Joe Carver, which is amazing as he kind of retires from his role at Google and he's done so much for the industry. And for us at Data Cloud, he sat on a number of our advisory boards and really helps us when it comes to kind of building agendas and all of that. And the second one to Lex Cause from Digital Realty, who again has just contributed so much to kind of the industry and you know his role now with the EDCA is really important, especially as we're trying to solve some of the policy mismatch for data center deployment within Europe.
Okay, and then I guess the other thing that I noticed in particular, you've announced for next year, 2026, a 3-day format, and clearly, I imagine you know roughly what you want to do, and please tell me as much as you are happy to share. It's obviously early days, but is it going to be more of the same, but just over 3 days, or does it give you, you know, opportunity to do some different things as well? Yeah, just tell us what you can as to what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I mean, I think if you spoke to a lot of people who come on site to Congress, or especially who were here there a couple of weeks ago, that there's just not enough time to get around everybody that you want to see. It's packed. Plus, you know, there are parties and drinks receptions, and you know, Sting's playing in Carlton down the road, and you know, there's all of this cool stuff that we wanted to be able to give people enough time actually to meet who want and attend the conference sessions because that's the challenge, right? If you're having to go to back-to-back meetings, but you also want to learn and network and, you know, have that kind of random conversation at a drinks reception, you can't really do that when you're fully packed out by your teams. So it's a bit of that plus the ability to start bringing in some new content. You know, we're working quite closely on it with a few different kind of innovations that we want to bring to the stage next year. So, you know, it's that kind of adjacencies that's going to really impact the industry moving forward. So that's kind of in stealth mode at the moment.
Yeah.
More to be revealed, but it is going to be really exciting.
Oh, that's fine. And maybe just sort of in finishing, I guess just your thoughts as to where you think Data Cloud sits. Clearly, yeah, there are data center events, digital infrastructure events in the calendar. in Europe, further field, etc. Just, I suppose, where you think Datacloud sits and how, proud, happy you are that what you're doing, does make a difference as opposed to being a Me Too event, if you like.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the team and what they achieved. I mean, as I said, for us, it's not about scale, it's about quality, it's about influence. And, I do think we are the most influential kind of data center event that's out there right now. And that's testament to the hard work of a lot of people. Um, where we're really lucky within Data Cloud is because we're part of techoraco, and techoraco is the only kind of digital infrastructure conference series out there, which means that, that across our various different brands, so Capacity, GLF, ITW, Tower Exchange, the Women in Tech World Series, we have slightly different and long tentacles into different communities. So being able to bring the fiber providers, for example, to the data centers and vice versa is a real it's a real boon for us to be able to kind of leverage those different relationships and communities and knowledge and research of, 20 plus years of playing in all these spaces, which really helps us kind of kick things forward. We don't do lots of events within Data Cloud. We only have 6 within the series. 3 are standalone. So the one we launched in Brussels, which is Energy and ESG, Global Congress, and then Data Cloud USA, which is taking place in September. So those are the kind of the 3 real flagship events. And then the other 3, we run are regional ones and we co-locate those with our larger kind of connectivity shows. Because for us, again, it's not about being me too. It's about making sure that we're kind of part of the industry. So in the Middle East and Africa and Asia, where you can't necessarily divorce conversations about data center from fiber, from power, from international connectivity, rather than just launching more events, we want to be quite purposeful about why we're bringing communities together. Because, we're not about spamming. We're more about just being really quite measured and trying to make sure that when we do something, we do it really, really well, or at least that's the aspiration, I suppose.
No, that's great. I mean, it's been lovely to catch up with you, and I have certainly put it in my diary. I had a clash, a very unfortunate clash, shall we say, this year, but next year I know where I shall be. But it's been
Please
great to
come,
chat,
yeah.
and thank you for sharing so many insights. So great to speak to you. Thank you, Annabelle.
Thanks, Phil.